Hello and welcome. I'm very happy to be back with you, talking again. Having returned to my kuti here in Sri Lanka. As you may know, I've been away for a short trip for visa reasons. I chose to go to Thailand, not the nearest port of call. India is a faster turnaround, but Thailand being a Buddhist country, you know the procedure of embarking, disembarking, immigration is going to go very smoothly from past experience. And also, if there were going to be any delays, there are plenty of places for me to stay whilst I wait, and also transportation internally in Thailand is very simple and free of charge, being a monk and it being a Buddhist country. So indeed they're very accommodating, and of course one can continue with Pindapata, going on alms round to collect food. If you're there for more than a day, you need to eat. So money isn't a problem. Someone asked in the comments about travel expenses, visa expenses, and I think I replied, but essentially we don't travel really as monks out of choice, but more out of necessity. In fact, as a lay practitioner, I travelled out of necessity to find places to be able to practice well, find teachers, learn the Dharma, and begin my practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Finding places to meditate isn't what we're looking for when we go out travelling, seeking, searching. In terms of the environment, of course, it is supportive to have somewhere peaceful, where you're undisturbed, relatively comfortable. And actually that more often than not can be found more easily and is more readily available at home in your own country, wherever you are. As soon as you are in a foreign land, you travel to another country, you are experiencing cultural changes. The food you eat can be very different. The weather conditions can take some time to get used to and can be quite difficult. And meditative conditions, therefore, are not always very good. But the Noble Eightfold Path is 3 parts of Sila, moral virtue, Samadhi, meditation, and Panya, wisdom. And we're learning, when practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, all of these 3 parts to practice Sila, moral virtue. Now this we can find more supported and easier to manage in the environment of a monastery or a meditation retreat where other like-minded practitioners are also doing the same, and have less distractions than that we might have in our own homes or even in our own countries. So this is one good reason why we might choose to travel. And as far as developing wisdom, this will come naturally by way of keeping virtuous behaviour, and practicing meditation regularly, often, for as long as possible. The knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding of the characteristics of this very existence, all of them being of an impermanent nature and uncertain. From the external conditions that we're faced with, whether by choice or not by choice, or the internal conditions of our own bodies. how they're continually changing, primarily aging and sickening and eventually dying. I think we have my new friend coming to join me. Hello. This, if she comes into view, is my new friend, aren't you? You're much like the old one. Hello. That's just good fortune. I mean, this isn't, well, you couldn't make that happen, could you? So the question that arose was, how do you afford this travelling, visas, expenses and such matters? Well, we don't travel by choice. It is through necessity. Through necessity or by invitation. And in either case, it is usually lay people, lay Buddhists, practitioners whom will pay for those expenses. Because you're quite right in what you say, the commenter, that we don't use money as monks, or have money, or have access to it. Now these days one does have to comply more than perhaps in the 1960s and 70s, where you could just go to India and disappear for 10 years and not worry too much about it. Everything's computerized, and to some extent it can be considered, it is from my point of view, considered as we are handling money when we're using online transactions to, say for instance, pay visa fees or purchase a flight ticket, albeit the money hasn't gone into our own accounts or come into our hands, and we don't have much choice as to where we spend it, and it's going for very directed purposes. We are, of course, indeed transacting something. So one could question that. But in modern times, I'm afraid it has become a necessity. It is essential. So if people make kind offerings of dana, donations via PayPal or something like that, by that same means, so without having much to do with it, you can transact these necessities of moving from one country to another. Now, out of choice, I would stay put in the same place, and this is what I've been trying to do for some years now. Then we had the problems of the pandemic, and then subsequently after that, everything's become more computerized. There's less manual the immigration offices and departments and such like, you don't really go to them anymore or have anything to do with them. You simply do everything online. So there's that other need of having to have some kind of mobile device, because it has your proof of identity documents and requirements to be in a country on there as well, to match up with their own online records. So these are the sort of grey areas we have to venture into. But this is no different to what we see, hear, smell, taste and touch, or in the olden days had access to in a library, for instance. You can go to a library and you can read all kinds of things. But you can also go to a library and just read material that is going to develop wholesome mind states and reduce unwholesome mind states. So we're skillful, we're guarded in how we use our senses and what we expose ourselves to. And we have to apply this same directive, these same safeguards to the use of modern day devices. Now, myself, I don't need to use this smartphone very much, other than for this, and this is very simple. And I didn't continue with my talks whilst I was away, even though I was away for a relatively short time, and I did have some internet from an old SIM card that was still working from my last stay in Thailand. I didn't want to get involved with the setting up of this and that and uploading, and took the opportunity to just do the administration that was necessary as far as my travel documentation was concerned, which actually I did on arrival. As soon as I arrived at the airport, in incidental expenses when traveling, it's a beautiful thing, especially in traveling in Buddhist countries, that we we get bought cups of coffee or Coca-Cola, or if it's at the appropriate time, we're offered food. So these are also it's very useful. It keeps us going, which is the purpose of it. It's representative of one of our 4 requisites, food and medicine, to keep us going and supported on our travel and our journeys. And that also comes by way of lay followers, lay supporters. So I was very fortunate on arrival at the airport in Thailand to be whizzed through as a monk, the priority route. You don't have to do any waiting in line. You go straight through and out into what is the outside world. You have to go through all the various, very unusual for monks, places which, what would you call them? Duty-free lounges or shops. They have perfume, alcohol, jewellery, all of the things that are excluded for our use, or for any practitioner, on the 8 precepts, in fact. Beautification, jewellery, glamorous, makeup we don't wear on the 8 precepts. Alcohol, of course, is in the 5 precepts. Of course, cigarettes doesn't come into precepts because it's considered just a stimulant, not a toxicant. Plenty of those there, but most monks these days don't smoke. All of this stuff, and what an amazingly huge choice there is of all of this stuff, which you cannot help but notice. Now, having travelled quite a bit recently, I've got used to it, so I just walk straight through. But I know when I first experienced this after a long stay in one place, I thought, wow, all of that choice, how would you ever decide what to buy? And this is something we can do, both in lay life, and we have to do as monks, to make our lives and our practice more simple and go more smoothly. And that is to reduce choice. If we can reduce the selection, the choice, life is easier. As a monk, we go on pindapat, we go on alms round. So we don't choose our food from a menu. We go and here it's fairly straightforward, simple, the food that I'm offered, rice and curries and things like this. And I'm very grateful for that too. In Thailand it can be quite varied. People offer all sorts of things. It's a very, in recent years maybe it's become more so, a very modern and westernized country now. So you have all these packets of sweets and drinks and things like that. And as soon as this happens, you can sense and you can know how your mind is getting busy. Oh, I really like the look of that. Should I have that one or should I have that one? If I have too much of that, then will I have room for this? Should I give this away? Should I give that away? Should I keep this for myself? It's all going on, cluttering the mind. So by way of simplification, like minimalist living, we can do that as lay people, as lay practitioners, as well as monks. Keep our lives as simple as possible. And this is what the ordained or monastic life supports us, enables us to do. But that doesn't take those options away from lay people. If you have, say, satellite television or extra cable services or something like that, it probably doesn't work quite that way these days. It's been a while for me since I've had television as such, but you could get rid of those packages. You perhaps don't need 100 channels. Maybe you don't need any, in fact. But maybe at first, to ease yourself off, you could just get rid of maybe 95 of them and just keep 5. Maybe, if they have such a thing, terrestrial channels. I don't know what they call them these days. But the main channels you need, if you need them for the news or even as part of your lifestyle or living needs. Sometimes people do need access to media for that reason in lay life. That's perfectly okay. But you can still reduce the choice, save yourselves money, and make your mind more calm, having less decisions to make. So we go to a restaurant, we have a menu, we can have the table d'hote they used to have, which was more or less a set menu, maybe 2 or 3 options at the most in each course. And I remember that was a very nice way to eat in a nice restaurant, because almost the food is recommended for you. It would be 3 choices of quite different items, so you'd probably only go towards one of them anyway. But when faced with what they call the a la carte menu, with all of those different options and subcategories, one could spend so much time just deciding, you don't get a chance to really enjoy the experience of eating. Ow, that really does hurt when you bite like that. I've got a feeling that this cat is pregnant because she's doing all of the same things as the last one, and that's why she's so friendly. They get very friendly, it seems, when they're pregnant. Friendly bite, that was. I know she was biting, but it's a friendly bite, isn't it? She doesn't have a name yet, just cat. So choice. We reduce choice to what we need. And this is also identifying the difference between what we need and what we want. And this is bringing our attention to desire. And what is desire? Well, desire is really fire. It's fuel to the fire. It's what, when trying to satiate or satisfy insatiable, unsatisfiable desires, we are continually adding fuel to them. Like scratching an itch will only make it itch in a different place or even more. I've had to experience this a lot in these tropical climates and heats with mosquitoes. You know so very well, the minute you start scratching, that's it. It will go on and on and on. You have to just not make that first scratch, and then it will go away with time. Much as a lot of cravings, thirst, desires or wants, as opposed to what we need, will often just pass by if you don't try and satisfy them. So traveling has become, or is to some extent, a necessity for anyone in perhaps living outside of their own country, so choosing not to live in a monastery in their own country, which is always an option. But if wanting to be able to live like monks in the time of the Buddha, as prescribed in the Vinaya Pitaka by the Buddha, and you can read about in the suttas, by going on alms round, interacting with lay people, and interdependence with them, supporting them, with them supporting you, then one does need to travel perhaps to these kind of places. So I didn't have any plan exactly as to how long I would go for, but sitting down as I arrived, got off the plane, it was very early in the morning, I sat in the whatever you call the first bit where you go in through the entrance doors to an airport. I sat down, someone brought me a nice black coffee, and got the phone out, turned it on and saw it was working, and thought, well, I'll do this administration that I have to do now, and then I can put the phone away again and forget about it for some time. So this is what I did. Another monk, looked like a Thai monk, came and sat near me, looking at me. We didn't converse, but I was quite glad about that, because I was concentrating, and I think he was respecting the fact that I had my little reading glasses on and my phone, and I was looking very intense and perhaps somewhat weary after 24 hours travelling. By the time I'd left here and got to the airport, waited, gone on the journey and got there, and the time mounts up. But anyway, and hadn't eaten at this time, it was dawn, it was about 4:35 in the morning. Anyway, I went through the process on the phone, beep, 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 and did my administration that I needed to do. Then I thought, well, that's that. It might be a few days. It said on there, it was a few days, and it said it would be working days. And this was on a Sunday. And they have a lot of holidays also here in Sri Lanka, so you can always add another day's holiday into any 1 week. But I thought it'd be a few days. I'll head off now to where I stayed before, sort of central southern Thailand on the coast, the Gulf of Thailand coast, and go to the monastery there. So this is what I did, and again, it all went very smoothly. Headed off down there and arrived. I was offered food at the bus terminal, because I went by bus. Well, it was kind of a mini bus, so quite comfortable, very comfortable in fact. They give you, the monks, a nice place to sit. Oh, sorry, I'm being distracted by this cat. I've left some cakes from my dana this morning to give to the people nearby, and she's looking quite interested in these cakes. I hope she doesn't rip all the bags open. I might have to get her some milk, which I've also saved especially for her. Hey, come back, that's a good girl. And anyway, I arrived at my destination to go to the monastery and saw that, and went to my usual place and settled down really for my practice. And time's a bit ahead there, but eventually by the evening anyway, I thought, well, I'll just check that I'd done everything correctly. And already, by which time my administration, visa stuff had all been already more or less sorted out, I think, and I was more or less ready to return. So it was very, very hot there, very hot indeed. There's some sort of heat wave going on at the moment in Asia, here too, but it's not quite so hot as it was here. And I thought, well, I didn't really want to make this a big trip, so I will pay respects to my fellow monks there and the monastery. And 3 days is usually the time where we go and can stay anywhere without any discussion. Just pay respects to the abbot and then leave again. So it's a known thing amongst monks, and usually lay people also, if they want to stay for 3 days in a monastery, it's okay. So I thought, well, I'll keep this to the 3 days, and again, by virtue and generosity of lay people, was able to book my return ticket, which I hadn't done, not knowing when I'd be returning. After all, the last time I went to Thailand, it was just for this purpose, and I ended up staying there for 7 months. This time around, very quick turnaround. So after 3 nights, I headed back. Now, I've been absent from here, YouTube, for a bit longer, quite a bit longer than that. That's just the way it's worked out timing-wise. But now I'm back settled, with no need to travel or go anywhere at all for the foreseeable future. And I'm happy with that and content, being supported well here in my practice, to continue with that. And what I wanted to ask you, the subscribers, today, a thought that occurred to me when reading through the comments, is that I get quite a lot of questions with regards to meditation, but also a lot of questions about other things, which is good too, because it gives variety and spice to our a la carte of discussion when talking and discussing your questions and comments in the questions and answer talks that I do here. So that's good. But what I wanted to ask you, to ask yourselves, as I have the opportunity all of the time to question of myself, is how well have you been meditating today? How well did you meditate yesterday? Now, the reason I say this is because it is easy to lose sight of what we are here to do. We can, I think there's an expression, not see the wood for the trees. I don't know, be so looking at each individual tree that we're not seeing there's a whole forest there, a beautiful forest. Maybe it's the other way around, not seeing that each individual tree is there because we're just seeing a whole forest. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is, if we don't concentrate on those aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path, firstly, Sila, we should be doing anyway. 5 precepts as lay people. That should not come into question. If it does, then you really need to address that first, because meditation is not going to work without having first established Sila. It is the foundations of our practice. So let's just assume we're all not killing anyone, stealing anything, acting in ways construed as sexual misconduct, lying, or taking any intoxicants. Let's make that assumption that we can keep those things at bay, refraining from those unwholesome activities. And just on 5 precepts, then you are then in a situation of a freedom of conscience, nothing to reprimand yourself about. So when you sit and you begin to practice meditation, the 5 hindrances that come up are just those. The 5 obstacles in your way of meditation will be those that we have learnt and we are trained, or we are learning and we are training to deal with, each in their own way. Those of sensual desire, of ill will, of tiredness, of restlessness and worry, and of doubt. Those 5 hindrances. If you also have concerns about the future and concerns about the past because you have done something a little bit questionable, so maybe you've hurt something or someone, and then you're worried about the repercussions of that in the future, this is enhancing so much that 4th hindrance of restlessness and worry, which is based on the past and the future. Now, the past and the future does not exist other than in the present as imagination of the future, a memory of the past. Now, if you only have fond memories of the past, then you can see how much the moment currently you abide in, the present, here and now, is so much better. So by keeping sila and just practicing generosity and kindness to all beings and people we meet, then you make the present moment so much better indeed for yourself, because you have nothing to reprimand yourself about. So this is the importance of sila. And then meditation is possible. The hindrances as they are, when you can, we'll go through them more in these talks in days to come, as we talk more about meditation, because that's what I want to focus our attention on, the practice. Not so much philosophy, not so much questioning whether one should be a monk, whether one should be a layperson. I think one should understand that you have just as equal an opportunity to attain to levels of enlightenment as a lay practitioner if you're practicing the Noble Eightfold Path of Sila, Samadhi, Panya, as a monk living in a monastery, who may also have many other distractions, responsibilities, duties, and very little time sometimes, as I've seen and experienced around monasteries I've visited, little time to meditate. This is why I live in solitude and alone. And being well supported, I'm able to do that and concentrate all of my time between now, when I'm talking to you, and when I next talk to you, to just that, to practice. And on these recent travels also, although it was very hot, I was staying in a not strange place, because I'm very familiar with the country I went, well, I'm not familiar with the country at all. I've only been to more or less 2 places there. So I just go, I'm not traveling, I'm not a tourist, I'm just going there to the same place and then coming back again. Whether that was to be to practice, or now it's just for these administrative visits. Whatever the reason, I don't go looking at stuff and visiting and exploring. So just going there, I was able to see how I was reacting to all of the strange and what were quite wonderful and unusual things and experiences that I've become unaccustomed to. I think I've lost a bit of track of where I've been, but I've been in India and now Sri Lanka I was in one monastery for 7 months in Thailand, in the jungle, in the forest, and I didn't go out of the monastery apart from a couple of trips. In fact, if you go through these videos in time order, you can probably work it out more clearly than I can remember. But then I went to India for 3 months, and now I've been here for 6, 7 months. So for well over a year, I've not really been in what you'd call modern civilization. I thought I was here in this town nearby, actually. I thought it was quite modern until I saw Bangkok. And all of what goes on in the airports of these countries, whichever country you're in, they're the same. They have these shops selling all kinds of amazing gadgets and things now, which I don't even know what they are. But all things that are there have come on such a lot in just this short time. And even this last, since I suppose 5 years now, since I've not been back to England, albeit for one very short trip, things seem to have come such a long way and overtaken me a little. So I was able to watch my mind going out through these sense doors to seeing, wow, this is so different to how I remember it. And the one thing that really caught my attention was how people were fixed to their phones. Even in these busy, and I accept, yes, they have to be to some extent to look at their ticket or whatever, but, well, I wasn't, but then I haven't got anything to look at on there, so I can understand if they've got lots of stuff to keep up to date with, all of that choice, then their minds are going to be very, very busy. And, you know, I didn't actually feel judgmental towards this, what I considered to be rather overactivity of the use of the smartphone in modern day life, which I have not been exposed to until just this recent time. But I felt more by way of compassion for the fact that people feel the need to have to keep up with all of this, albeit probably very enjoyable and giving them some kind of gratification. But of course, as we know, as I've spoken to just a moment ago, we're only fueling that fire of desire continually. And with something beeping in front of you, and this isn't always done quietly, is it, in public, even with people? The phones are on, so they're making a sound all of the time. And I even saw monks doing this at the airports, sadly. And now that's, again, not said in a judgmental way, but I do think it's important that we, as monks, are representative of the Sangha in a way that people can see monks and be inspired. Now, not inspired to the sense that, oh, I see a monk and he's so virtuous, he meditates a lot. No. But if they see a monk acting and behaving in exactly the same way as they do, so for instance on watching sports on a mobile phone or playing games, which is against our rules, then how is that going to offer, that image ever going to offer anyone an inspiration? It is not. It would never have inspired me towards monastic life if I thought that monks and nuns were interested in, say, because we didn't have such access when I first was interested in monastic life, but if I'd thought that they were interested in football or cricket or tennis, then I would have given it a wide berth, the whole idea, because I would have thought that's something that I really want to leave alone, leave behind me. I want to become a monk, to go away, not run away, but to not have those choices, to simplify my life, away from games, competitiveness, sport, media, all of these things, as we knew it then and as it is now. So this is the point of monks going on Pindapata, alms round in their towns, in their villages, along to their local communities, so that they can be that source of inspiration. People see the very presence, which is visible, very visible by the way we are dressed, and are inspired towards an alternative way of living, even if it is only to support that alternative way of living by way of Dharma. It gives them hope that there is that for them to be inspired by and attain to in lay life. So these were experiences on my travels that I have come, to get used to over these recent years, but kind of go blinkered through the halls, I think they call them, the duty-free halls. And I don't have any luggage, so I'm on and off of the plane as quickly as you can be, really. And I go through the priority route on exit if it's into a Buddhist country, because I don't by choice, they usher you through that way as a monk. They do in Thailand anyway. And it's very straightforward. And they did here too on my arrival, just reinforcing that. A very, very straightforward process. And that enables me, with that support externally, to internally act and keep that discipline as trained in the Vinaya, as practiced by myself, as we do continually throughout our lives. A blinkered approach. I mean, physically we are taught to walk through towns just looking a few feet ahead of us, eyes down, not looking here and there around us. That is breaking one of our rules. The reason being is we're just looking where we need to go to walk carefully through society. We will be seen, but we don't need to be looking around at the distractions that may be around us. And that is the difference between monks in towns, in public places, to lay people in towns and in public places. And there should always be that visible difference. So the way we wear our robes, however hot it is, can be a little bit uncomfortable. So another reason why I thought it's better if I can get back to where I've now established this routine of practice as quickly as I can. And that is what I did. But I did enjoy 3 days of continual meditation. Frankly, it was rather too hot to even consider doing anything else. Not that there was anything else that I needed to do. And trouble-free, travelled back and was collected at the Colombo airport, albeit very late at night, in the middle of the night, by a local lay supporter here, and brought me back here to my kuti. And I had left it, as we leave our kutis as we like them to be found, clean and tidy, but there'd been some dust settling and creatures coming in and out, so I had a little sweep around and a clean up, put some parts of my robes that I wasn't wearing that I could into soak, and was able to get some rest and then just continue smoothly in my practice. And it got me to thinking that I should be really encouraging my very supportive subscribers here also to benefit from that too. Benefit from the opportunities you can find and do have to meditate for at least 1 hour a day. Now, live meditation, 15 minutes at morning puja, I resumed more or less, I think, the day after I returned. So there is that. But of course, that's at different times for different parts of the world. So it isn't always live. But if that helps you with a little chanting, getting in the mood to a 15-minute meditation, that's better than not meditating at all. But one should be trying to stretch this out, rather than thinking of all of the reasons why one can't meditate, to really understand and know all of the reasons why you should meditate and why we do meditate. And that is what we should be striving diligently to be doing. Between now and the next Uposatha, which is the full moon of May, also Wesak, the birthday, Enlightenment Day and Death Day of the Buddha, celebrated in all countries throughout the world now as a Buddha Day, Dharma Day, Sangha Day. No, Buddha Day, Dharma Day, Sangha Day are the 3 holy days. But in a way, the climax of these Buddhist celebrations is Wesak, because it's the birth, enlightenment and death. So the most significant parts of the Buddha's life are celebrated all on this same day, the full moon or Purnima of May. That's coming up, Wesak. By then, if we've got in under our belts, on our charts, if you like, and you should maybe make a record of this. If you have one of these I don't know, health and fitness app things that comes on your phone. I think it even has on there something maybe to do with mindfulness or meditation. Use it, put in there, make yourself little pretty graphs and charts if it gives you encouragement. But make it as important to get an hour's meditation in every morning or every evening, or both preferably, as you make it important to do any other thing you consider important in your life. Because I can assure you, it is as important as that, as those other choices. Reduce those other choices down to, well, eating, working, socializing, and meditating, and very little else. Because all of the entertaining, the social media, and all of the other stuff is there to try and fill out time, waste time, in an unconstructive way. Use that time in a constructive way to develop wholesome mind states, reduce the unwholesome mind states by practicing samadhi, by practicing meditation. You don't have to put in any direct effort other than the discipline of actually allocating that time to yourself. Most people find time in any 24 hours to sleep for so many hours, and they don't usually let that get taken away from them. Treat it the same way. Add an hour onto meditation, maybe take an hour off or half an hour each end off of your sleeping time to practice meditation. And then you will be building it into your day. So that when I ask next time, how has your meditation been? You can answer to yourself that, well, actually, I have been meditating regularly every day, 1 hour for the last week, and I feel so much better. Thank you, Bhante, for suggesting it. It's been actually really rather quite easy. I've just had to sit for an hour and do nothing each day, and I feel so much better as a result of that. Anumodana, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. It'll be just that. That's how it is when you meditate. Try it. And on that note, I think it's probably time I should finish this for now. I hope if there's something there useful, you can use it. If not, share it with others. Until next time, when we speak again, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Be happy and stay well. Sukhi Hotu.